Light a candle for peace. Whisper the words, please let it come soon. Whisper a prayer for the world.
Hey, welcome to a special segment of the podcast, Every Moment is Sacred. This is a very special poetry project called 82 Days of Poetry. I am sharing with you 82 poems, bit by bit. They are all written by my late mother, Leslye Layne Russell. Before we get to the poem, I have some quick announcements. First of all, thank you for being here. We have made it 1 year of podcasting. Every Moment is Sacred is 1 year old this month, and I have you to thank. Thank you for listening. I also have some wonderful guests to thank. I am thanking 4 at a time for the rest of November because I want to highlight the guests' podcasts or if they have a special offer. Many of my guests are podcasters, so I want you to have some more fun material to listen to. Every Moment is Sacred, episode 8, had Abby Cajola visit the show. Her episode is called Peacefulness in Quiet Moments. Long ago, Abby produced a podcast with a friend. She had a co-host, and their show was called From Knowing to Doing. You can still find some of their episodes, although they are no longer creating new episodes, but the show is there, and I welcome you to listen to it. Every Moment is Sacred, episode 9, had Charla Grace Olson as a guest. Charla Grace was a joy to talk to, and her episode is called The Beauty of Self-Love. Charla has a podcast called From Her to Her, and that show, although current, is on pause. So you can find many wonderful episodes that were created in the last year. And in this moment, there's a pause that Charlotte is going through. Find her show. On Every Moment is Sacred, episode 10, we had Shannon Temez visit for a meditation journey. And Shannon's episode is called Learning Life Through Abundance. Shannon has a very fun show that is still being offered weekly. Her show goes out on Wednesdays, and Shannon's podcast is called Learning Life This Way. On Every Moment is Sacred, episode 11, Sarah Kostelnik visited, and her episode is called Bringing Awareness to Narcissism. This episode is the very most popular episode on the entire show, and it was so popular that I replayed it. So you can either listen to Sarah's episode on number 11 or number 31. It's the same content, different introduction, but this episode has more listens than the trailer, more listens than any other episode. It is a well-loved story that Sarah shares from her heart. And Sarah is also a podcaster. Her podcast is called the Living Elemental Podcast. She talks all about design and feng shui, and I always learn a lot by listening to her show. So visit all of these shows and come back here as often as you would like. As as a thank you gift to you, dear listener, thank you for being here. I am gathering together people for a meditation of peace on Thursday, December 7th at 12 noon Eastern Time. There will be a replay available. So if that is not the best time for you, or if you just pop in and pop out and you're not able to stay for the whole thing, as long as you're registered, you will receive the replay. I welcome you there. And in that gathering of meditation and considering peace, celebrating peace, maybe even defining a bit what peace is, I will also be sharing how my meditation offerings will continue. I am a meditation teacher and have taught since 2001. And due to some availability changes, I took a pause teaching meditation for the summer and part of the fall, and I am getting back into the swing of things, getting a little bit more clear about how to be in person as well as online teaching meditation again. This gathering on December 7th is free. Please go to my website, rainelizabeth.org, and click on the events tab, go down to Stillwater Meditation, and you'll be led through a very simple registration process. You can also browse my homepage, and in the center of the page, there's a button that says meditate. Click on that, and you can register there as well. Thank you so much for your presence. Thank you for making this show possible. As we jump into today's poem, you will find there is a little bit of an explanation about the poem. So you'll hear about the poem, and then you get to hear the poem, and then come back on Wednesday for a guided meditation, and come back on Thursday for a healing conversation. The guided meditation this week will be on discernment, and the healing conversation will be with Carolee Garrison, a singer-songwriter who lights up the world with her voice. Thank you again. I have so much gratitude for you, and enjoy today's poem. I want to take you back for a moment to the days when I was in graduate school studying at the California Institute of Integral Studies in San Francisco, California. I was in my mid-20s, so around 2000, 2001. I graduated in 2004, but this was in the early days of that episode of my life. And I had a dream. I had a dream of an old Indian man. And I described this man to my mom and explained to her that he was a teacher and he had something to share with me. And I really needed to look up his work. I needed to find out who he was. And then his name started with an N. And I didn't quite get his name in the dream. So I was trying to sound it out like like there's a ga or ja. And she and I have a very deep spiritual connection. And she and my father were both my first spiritual teachers. And so I always felt very safe coming to her with my spiritual questions. And she was trying to help me figure out who this man was. And she landed on either Nisargadatta, which is also a great teacher who I love, I've come to love, and Nagarjuna. And this poem is about Nagarjuna. Now, both of these gentlemen are Indian and are age-old teachers and have offered great wisdom to the realm of spirituality for all of us to enjoy. Nagarjuna was alive around the 1st to 3rd century Common Era, CE. So nobody really knows exactly when he was alive, but that's what they estimate, the historians and scholars. And he was an Indian Mahayana Buddhist thinker, scholar, monk, philosopher, and the founder of the Middle Way school. Now, the reason why this is important is because I get so excited about this. He was a teacher of emptiness, and Buddhism is a tradition that no matter which school of Buddhism you're looking at, there are many different paths of Buddhism, many different, if you imagine a tree, and if you imagine branches and little twigs coming off of that, there are many different directions that Buddhism went into, but they all deal with emptiness. They all look at what emptiness is, what does it mean, why is it important? And Nagarjuna wanted to share with the world that everything is empty and everything is not empty, and there's a middle way. And so he was one teacher, a very early teacher of the middle way. And that's what this poem is about. I'm just looking to see if there's anything else I wanted to say. Oh, yes, that's right. So my mother always said his name, Nagarjuna. And so I easily say Nagarjuna. When I just now looked up a little history about him, I saw the Sanskrit transliteration of his name. And I know a little Sanskrit. I am not a Sanskrit scholar by any means, but I can get by, and I really love the language of Sanskrit. In the transliteration, I would say his name, Nagarjuna, and both of the A's would be long, Nagarjuna. But in my family, we would say Nagarjuna. So if any of you know the correct pronunciation or how you would say his name, please let us know. All information is welcome. There's a wealth of knowledge in this world. Nagarjuna. You've got to hand it to Nagarjuna, putting it all together, taking it apart, telling us it is, it's not, it's both, showing us how samsara equals nirvana. Not bad, considering he lived right here in the midst of the is and is not, just like all the rest of us. Nagarjuna. You've got to hand it to Nagarjuna, putting it all together, taking it apart, telling us it is, it's not, it's both, showing us how samsara equals nirvana. It's not bad, considering he lived right here in the midst of the is and not, just like all the rest of us. Thank you so much for listening. It has been a great joy to have your presence here in this podcast. I welcome you to celebrate the joy and wisdom in your life exactly as it is. And I welcome you to feel loved, fully loved, exactly as you are. www.rainelizabeth.org